Okay,
Hello,
so there we go. Why is that light in the way?
Tuanni.
You look great. I don't know, I had it perfectly, but now the light is in my way. All right,
I'm
so is this okay? Okay, so we are live on Facebook just because I wanted to start building up an audience before we actually got started. So I think I just went live. I was gonna try to do Instagram too, but it was just too difficult for Instagram. Um,
yeah, in here.
Instagram is not my friend right now. But let me just see what it looks like on. Okay, so looks good on Facebook. Yeah. All right. And let me see if I can just like share it so some people can watch it. Mm, I know people are probably sick of me sharing by now. But okay, I'm not going to share it with the whole world. I'm just going to share it with a couple people who might be interested. Yes. And so that part is done. And yeah, how are you? Let me see if I can fix my lighting. It's annoying me right now. Let's see. All
I'm
right,
good,
whatever.
thanks. Yeah, I've got some shadows too. What can we do? This is quarantine cooking, right? We're rigging
I
up
know
our kitchens and
this is like our home studio, so like nobody call and complain. I can write Google for that one. All right, so let me just introduce you. So I'm here with Ishay Govender. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, so I apologize. But she is author of this book. It's curry. So it's recipes from all over South Africa, recipes and stories. And so that's what I really like because like when I go in here to pick out a recipe and then I start reading the story and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so amazing. And I feel like food connects people through like stories. So welcome, Ishay. Welcome. How are you?
you. I'm good, and I'm so glad we're doing this. We actually planned to do this way before the news of Corona broke out on our side of the world, right? So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have found a way to do this and do a little cook along, and hopefully invite some people to either join us now or watch this later and enjoy it. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited. You know what? I see that you have your wine and I can't wait to see what you're drinking. Let me just grab my bottle because I forgot about that. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. So this right here is my very last bottle of wine. And so I figured I would open it up for a special occasion. I've been saving it all week. All week I've been putting off
The
drinking
lamb
it because
party.
I was, yes. So I saved it just for our meeting. And I'm just gonna pour me a glass and cheers.
Cheers
Cheers.
to you. What are you having?
Cheers. So I'm having a Sauvignon Blanc from let me see, I'm not even sure where it's from. It just says South African, so it can be from anywhere. It says South African Cape Coast. And it's called Sophie. And you know, it's an inexpensive bottle, but it's delicious. So I'm super excited.
Right. So I'm having an inexpensive, it's not South African, it's a Nebbiolo, because I did think that another good pairing for this would have been possibly my Avondale Shannon. But I'm saving it because, desperate times. I
Yes,
thought I'm
yes, I get it.
last of it.
And I'm optimistic that on June 1st, on Monday, we can get wine. But just in case, I'm like, oh my goodness, this could be the last one that I have for months. But all right, we won't talk about that so much. Let's see. I was just kind of waiting for some people to join us. Hi, Facebook world. If you guys are there, just say hello. I'm cooking with Ishay. And so she has this entire book is dedicated to curry. And so before we get started, can you just, and while we get started, I'm gonna grate this tomato. And I'm gonna tell you, when you
Okay.
sent the recipe over and it said grated tomato, I was like, I've heard of grated Parmesan, but never heard of grated tomato. I had to Google, like, how do you grate a tomato? So thank goodness for Google. But can you tell us, like, why curry? Why make a book about curry?
I'm going to tell you about that, but I'm going to make a point to come back about the grating. So just remind me, okay?
Okay.
So this book, it was, the journey to do this book was edifying. And it was, a combination of humbling, but at the same time, just so nourishing. And it wasn't just about the food. So I traveled around South Africa for about a year, and I documented the stories of home cooks. And that in itself was difficult because I used a very organic process to find these people. So I was, knocking on doors, listening to librarians, community leaders, anyone would speak to me pretty much. And oftentimes they, I ended up at the side of the road crying, weeping, because I just couldn't get through to a certain church who apparently knew the Tuanni who made the best curry. So it was really important for me to make this a book about home cooks, because the curry you'll see is a vehicle to something deeper. And these are the stories. Now, why curry, to answer your question? They say that braai, for example, is one of our national dishes. And actually, braai, I think, is more technique, right? We have many things that unify the country. And I didn't want to be glib about it and sort of give a one solution to everything. And I don't think that's fair either. Rather, what we did was we went to all these communities documenting curry, because there are different versions made in various communities, even within
Right.
the Indian community, and from province to province. And why? So I get an opportunity to tell the story about colonization in a way, to tell the story about cultural appropriation, to tell the story about what happens when people can't move, when they're locked in their regions. These regions become incubators. And so we see the birth of the Cape Malay cuisine and curry, and we see the birth of the Durban curry on the East Coast, right? Because people are locked at one stage and there's no freedom of movement. So I found that a very interesting.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Social and political tool, actually, this particular dish. And I know some people are really fanatic about, well, grate your tomatoes, only at home, roast the spices at home and grind them. There's no such thing as a box spice. And yet, for the majority of South Africa, it's one of those box spices, like Raja or Cartwrights and whatnot.
Wait,
and
so
when you
is
see the original,
this box spice, like what you call this box spice? Like this is my ground coriander.
yes, so specifically when I refer to a masala, which technically just means a mix, and that's usually the red powder, right, with some chili or paprika, or when I refer to curry powder, those are the boxed spices. Everything else, I mean, of course, our cinnamon, cardamom, everything comes in a box or glass.
Like
so
this.
That would be like yes. Yeah.
So it's
and
like they took all the spices and they just put them in this.
And I think that's a good one, actually. But there are some that are, considered maybe a little watered down, but that's okay. And the reason it's okay is if we look at the origin of the word curry and where it really comes from, it's a dish that was adapted for the taste of the British when they were living in India at that stage. And they take this across the water. And the first instance of curry powder, it wasn't in India. You would find that people would grind their spices to make this. And they never called the dishes curry. They had different names like korma or Rogan Josh or it's such thing. But in India, of course, everybody understands what you mean when you say curry today. So the British take this across, and the first time it's sold is in a pharmacy. And I forget the date, but it's quite a while ago. And it's sold as an elixir, something to perk you up for everything from low libido to stomach problems. And so if you look at the origins, we often have lost touch. We have lost touch with the origin because that's really naturally what happens when time passes. People forget that this, and then we become very vocal in how we cling on to wanting to co-opt something or saying this is mine or that is mine. But I think in this book, what happened certainly with my own impression of curries, because I grew up with my mother's and grandmother's curries, and I in my mind thought that those were the ultimate. This was very eye-opening for me. The people prepare them in different ways, and you're going to see it when we prepare Firdous' lamb curry as well. Just the order of the spices. You're going to have communities that argue about that. What goes first? Mustn't you cook the spices down in oil first? And some will say no, add it later. Now, I have tested all these recipes multiple times, and there's not a recipe in here that I didn't enjoy. And yes, some had a little bit of sugar, which is completely foreign to the way my family would cook, and some had a little bit of vinegar. But I think if you love food and if you enjoy trying to understand people through their food, you would appreciate that dish too.
I think you make an interesting point though when you talk about like, because I read the book and I tried to cook some of the curries, but they had so many ingredients in some of them. But I did read the book to figure out which one I wanted to try and cook. And what's interesting is it seems like people are using ingredients depending on like where they are, maybe their social economic background. Like some people might use fresh veggies, some people might use canned veggies, um, and that was interesting. So like I really liked the book for that because you did go all around South Africa, from the townships to like the Cape Flats, everywhere, which was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really important for the book, for me, for the book to be representative. Because if we were speaking about curry of the people, it had to be all the people, as many as I could. And you can imagine this was a tough task because there are sublime cooks that I know in many, cities and provinces, and one I just one. But for me, what you said about people using what they have is so important because you will see some of these recipes. They are the bare bones. You've got the onion, the oil, the protein, and maybe some form of spice in a curry powder, right? And then you have the others that we call the laundry list. And this is definitely, one of those that has a number of spices. And it's got to do with how you grew up. It's got to do with availability, scarcity, what you can afford to put in. One thing that comes up very strongly in communities that are not well off is that the curry tends to be the dish, very much like the stew, that is served for functions that are large, funerals, for example, beef curry. It's something that can stretch because we add starch like potatoes, or we serve with rice. And it's got a gravy, so the whole long sauce kos, which in Afrikaans means, long sauce, meaning you stretch the food out. It's the same principle, right? So curry becomes very adaptable. Veggies in there.
All right, so you know what? We can talk about curry all day, but let's get started with some of the cooking. Let's see if we can chat while we cook. So where should we start? Do you just want to?
Okay, so I think a great place to start is maybe just a small pep talk for anyone like listening about the.
Okay.
You see, you can see like there's a board of ingredients in front here, right? And it may look like that's a lot. So the first thing I think we need with cooking and baking is a sense of bravery. So if you come into the kitchen with a sense of bravery and get this done, it's not going to defeat you. So I often hear people, that's it, Rosie. I often hear people say that, curry sounds so intimidating. To me, it doesn't because I grew up with it, but I understand it could be. And second is adaptation. And I think if anything this pandemic has shown us, has taught us, is that we have to be able to roll. And so I know that if we look at my ingredients and yours, you've adapted to what you have and what you thought was suitable to purchase. And it's still going to be a beautiful dish, And thirdly, I think is preparation. So one thing I always say is not just be organized. Okay, it's great if you've got time to chop everything in advance, but it's a basic. Read your recipe. Read your recipe at least 2 times. Because the worst thing is halfway through you realize, oh, I don't have this, and you're going to see that that was quite essential to the dish. You don't want to be disappointed. So while I'm encouraging you to adapt, read your recipe.
Yeah, read the recipe.
So okay. So the basic ingredients here for Firdous Patel is from Uppington, and she let me into her house with absolutely no notice. I heard about her on that morning. I was leaving the city on the morning, and she opened her door. It was a day or two after Ramadan anyway. And she was just so welcoming and incredible woman. So for her, she's used mutton, but we're using lamb. So cooking time is going to be quicker. We've got onions, we've got potatoes, and tomatoes. Those are the basics, right? We spoke about grating. And you know what? I didn't grate these. You know what I did? I didn't have fresh tomatoes, so I used canned. And my technique that I often do is instead of putting it in a separate bowl, the tomatoes are, let's say, peeled and whole. I take a knife into the can and I sort of cut it while it's there. And, kind of like get it as smushed as I can. And so you'll see that my tomatoes maybe are not Firdous's ideal, but there we go, we're adapting.
And then we don't want this So we don't eat the skins of the potatoes. I mean, of the tomatoes when we grate them, right? No skins.
No, no, it's going to give you, the texture sort of curls up and it's like a membrane. It's not an ideal texture, right?
See,
So
my
we're going to
boyfriend
leave them
doesn't
out.
believe in throwing away anything. He eats everything. So okay, no skins. I'm
But
gonna
you
put
know
those to
what?
the side. Let me put those in the trash before he comes back. All right.
We can do that. We've got fresh ginger and garlic, and then we've got these spices. Once we get the pot hot and ready, we're going to look at the spices. But I just want to say to you that even if you don't have all of these, it doesn't matter because we're going to adapt, and it's still going to be beautiful, right? Can you just tell me, Tuanni, which of the spices do you have?
Okay, so I can tell you what I don't have. I don't have cinnamon and I don't have cardamom. But everything else I have, and I don't
You don't
have
have
red chili.
cinnamon?
I don't have cinnamon. I don't have cardamom, and
Okay.
I don't have red chili flakes.
Oh no,
Huh?
you're going to end up with a disaster.
Oh no,
It's
really?
going to be fine. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
No, I'm kidding. It's going. Those are spices that actually have a sweeter profile, and in combination with the others, they sort of meld together and give you. So I understand why she's using it, but you don't have to.
Okay.
So I'm going to move over, inch over slowly to the stove,
Okay.
and while we try to pick that up, I would suggest get your stove on medium high, and then we're going to add our oil and butter.
Okay. So I'm heating up my stove. My stove is getting hot, and how's everybody doing? So I'm super excited. Are you guys gonna cook with us next time? Yes. All right. So just leave a comment in the Facebook if you're gonna cook with us next time. Okay, we're ready. We're ready. Ishay? Uh-oh. Did I lose her? Wait, am I frozen? Who's frozen? Wait, maybe I'm frozen. Okay, wait, but I'm moving, but she's not moving. What is going on here? Let me see. 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 Okay, so just a second, you guys. We are having technical difficulties. Let me see what's going on here. Um, See if I can figure this out. Are you guys still with me on Facebook? Let's see. Let me just go to Facebook and see. No, I think I'm still live on Facebook. So, um, let's see. Ah, okay. Let me see. I'm gonna tap her and see what's going on. In the meantime, my pot is cooking, and okay, so she's waiting to connect. Okay, cool. Okay, and how is everyone doing? Yeah, just bear with us. Ishay is coming back. My pot is getting hot. I'm drinking wine. I grated my tomatoes, or tomatoes, however you say it. And yeah, so I'm super, super excited about this. Let me just see. Let me just go to Facebook and see if I could talk to you guys. Oh, okay. So maybe you guys want to come in on Zoom. Maybe I'll just maybe make it a party. So then that way, if something happens, uh-oh. There she goes.
Hi.
Hey, Shay.
Okay.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so let's
So
see.
you're moving. You can see me. We're back. Cool.
Yes, everybody is back.
Okay, cool. Is that light okay?
Yep, your mic sounds fine.
Okay. And the light?
The light is perfect. Your kitchen is beautiful,
Okay.
by the way.
Thank you so much. Okay. So first things first, we've got our pan that's heated up, right? And so now we've got a combination of the oil and the butter going in. If you don't have any butter, that's perfectly fine. If you only have butter, that's also good. But the reason generally butter is added with oil is so that the butter doesn't burn too quickly. But I believe I spotted the butter in your kitchen earlier.
So wait a second. Let me tell you, I'm American, right? And so I saw the recipe, and it said 1 teaspoon of butter. But let me see if I could get a clearer picture of this, you guys, because this is the this is the American way. Like it's more than a teaspoon. Anyway,
Yeah, the Julia
so,
Child way. I'm there too. I must say I snuck in a tablespoon. But
you
if
know
you,
what? I'm always. Can I just slow down for a second? Because I'm always confused about what pot should I use. So I was going to do that in this pot, right? But then
right?
I was like, they said you have to put a lid on it. So then I said, okay, well, let me use this pot. Should I save this pot for later? Okay. So I'm going to say
Okay, you know, I am using one that's shallow like yours, just simply because if I felt it was too high, maybe you couldn't see it, but I have a lid with this. Do you have something like a heat-proof plate or something that you could put on the top of yours? Then you can use that one. But if not,
I think I could put a plate on there. Yeah. It'll be a little ghetto fabulous, but yeah, I'll put a plate on it.
That's cool. And we need to adapt. I mean, you know. Okay, so we've got yours is in as well, right? Oil and butter.
The butter?
Yeah, the oil and the butter. It's in your pan?
Oh, no, let me put the oil and the butter in there. So it's not quite hot yet because I had the other pan on. So
okay. But you don't want to add too much of butter, of course, just because it may be oily, greasy.
It's done. It's done now. Wait, let's see. I can probably get it out because
it's going to be rich. Okay. So oil and butter. And now we've got our onions that are chopped up, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, these are sliced actually. So that lovely fragrance of, you know, when an onion hits the oil or butter.
Okay.
And at the same time, we're going to add 2 of the aromatics. And I think you're going to miss this step because you don't have these, right? So the cinnamon is going to go in and the cardamom. So you just stick with your onion, let that go in. And we're going to cook this until it gets a little brown. So Tuanni and I are going to do a little bit of speed cooking too. And I'm going to tell you why, because I know it's going to end up okay. We do want onions to caramelize, or as you Americans say, caramelize. And you want that to happen because it really adds to the flavor. But quite frankly, it's not going to take anything away if you don't wait for it to get to that point. Okay, and then I can give you another little tip, and I can't back it up with the science, though I'm sure there is science to it. I always add a little bit of salt to the onion. Now, I know salt generally will let water out of an ingredient, but I find that if salt helps to soften the cellulose wall, so my onions will cook quicker if I add a little pinch of salt to it. Okay. So in the meantime,
this is for all the people who say that I can't cook. Tuanni can cook. Just wait till you taste this. It's going to be so good.
Look at that. There you are. You're going. Great. So we can smell the onions across the city, right?
That's one of my favorite smells. Like I just love. Like I don't even like liver and onions, but I love the way that it smells.
Yeah, absolutely comforting. There's something about it. That's, I believe, bacon, coffee.
Oh yeah, bacon makes everything better.
So, Tuanni, while we're waiting for this to get a little color on it, maybe you can tell us a little bit about wines and pairing wine with food.
All right, so let me just tell you, I started my business and I started my passion for wine in the right way because I started it with food. Like I had this wine club with my girlfriends and we would meet once a month and one person was responsible for providing the wine and they'd have to pair it with the food. So they have to do all this research and then they would pair it with like the place of origin and the food of origin. So, for example, my one girlfriend, she did Chardonnay and she did cordon bleu, and
Okay.
I did Chianti and I did Italian food. And that was the best way to learn about wine, just because you were learning about the wine region and then you were tasting the food from that region. And in a lot of countries, that's actually how they drink their wines. Like there's some Italian wines that I just can't drink by themselves, but when I have them with food, it makes it so much better. Um,
Yes.
so I developed a program to actually show people how to introduce people to different wines through food. So I do these
Mm-hmm.
in-home wine tastings where I take like snacks, like little wine bites, and then I pair the food with the wine so that they can see how the flavors and the aromas change. Um, One of my favorites, and I know you're gonna judge me on this one, but one of my favorites is chili mangoes with Riesling. And the reason I say you're gonna
Okay.
judge me because I know whenever you talk curry, people always say, "Oh, have a Gewürztraminer, have a Riesling, have something that's like off dry, right?"
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a perfect pairing. It's easy.
I mean, you can't argue with the perfect pairing with the classic, and I certainly would. But having said that, I have enjoyed Riesling with and Gewürztraminer and Viognier with spicy foods. I think generally when people think of the Thai food, because that seems to be the curry that is the first point of reference uh, in mainstream restaurants, right? We know exactly what Cape Town's restaurants are like.
Yeah.
That would be the pairing. So I'm curious to see if my Nebbiolo grape here in the glass is going to go, because yes, okay, one would think red wine with red meat, but not always with the curry. But I'm keen sometimes for the strong flavors. My introduction to wine in any event was a late introduction, and it happened through food. So for me,
Well,
it's
you
very
know what?
difficult to see the two without each other.
Yeah, but my thing is like for me, I would even recommend a Sauvignon Blanc with curry, just because you have
Mm-hmm.
those strong spices, and then Sauvignon Blanc has that acidity, and it's kind of like you're matching those two powerful like flavors with each other.
Yeah.
So whenever I try to do food and wine pairings, I always say either you want them to complement each other and to just like mesh together, and you can't tell where one starts and one ends, or you just want them to have like this rock star party in your mouth. And I feel like that's what a Sauvignon Blanc and like a
Yeah.
curry would do. Just like this party. So yeah. But I'm
Yeah,
excited. I'm
my
drinking
my
Sauvignon
lay,
Blanc right
my layperson's advice, I leave all the professional pairings to the likes of you and the sommeliers in the restaurants. But my feeling is that if it tastes good to you, and if it doesn't, then stop. Drink the wine before and or after, but and don't force yourself, because to you you'll perceive if this goes well or if it doesn't. So now, Tuanni, we are ready. Certainly, I am from my side to do the next step, and that is to add the lamb in. So we're using lamb, not mutton.
now.
And
Okay.
how's it looking there on your?
So let me just get this straight because I don't know if I was drinking too much, but we added the onions, the cardamom, and the cinnamon if you had them, and now we're adding the
Yes,
lamb. Okay,
yes.
perfect. Okay, and so we don't have to season the lamb or anything. We just put it in the
No, we
pot. Just
don't, which is interesting, right? Because in the community I grew up in, the order
yeah.
would be completely different. We would fry the spices. So we fry the cinnamon here, but we'd fry the more potent spices to, my family would say, to get rid of that raw taste, whatever that means. But there are different communities who do things differently, and having prepared all these recipes repeatedly, I can tell you they all come out beautifully and interesting, and they're all well cooked in the end. So I
Okay,
have a
well I'm just
combination.
gonna go with the recipe then. But let me just take a
Sorry.
break because there's some people watching on Facebook. So let me just take a break to say hi. Hi to my twin sister Misha's watching. Hi Sissy, love you. Monica is watching. Hey Monica. Martin, hi Martin. And Neil, hi Neil. Yes, okay. So I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledge. Hi Tracy. Tracy is an actual chef. Like she went to school for it and everything. So
Oh,
I always get nervous when I cook around her.
well,
What is
hi
that
to all
noise?
Tuanni's Facebook friends. Okay, so I'm
All
going to
right.
add the lamb in on my side. And what I was saying about this is that I've got a combination. So we're using lamb, not mutton. Mutton was requested in the recipe. And I always try to use a combination of pieces that have bones in it. So I would get my butcher to do a combination of knuckles and to cut from the shoulder, for example. But of course, you use whatever you have. So if you have pieces with bones, generally that adds a lot more flavor to your dishes. But if you don't, that's fine. And if you don't, it's going to cook much quicker. So I'm going to give this a bit of a stir. So you let me, is your lamb in as well?
This is a lot of lamb. Yeah, this is a lot of lamb.
So next we are going to add our ginger and garlic. Okay, ginger and garlic in. I'll say I'm really struggling to get garlic at the moment.
And you know what? I cheated on this one too because I was being super lazy. And I've been doing this whole time. Usually I grate my own garlic and everything, but this time I got the ginger and the garlic paste.
Oh no, go for it. Go for it. My mom would happily use that as well. And the green chili. So whatever chili you have, let that go in. So we've got ginger, garlic, or whatever you have.
I have the green chili, but we really like spicy food. So I have this orange chili too, which is really
go
spicy.
for it.
Gonna add that in.
We're gonna coat the lamb.
Are you guys proud of me? Can somebody just call my mama and tell my mama I'm over here cooking? Or no, just tell my whole family, because my whole family, they cook. They're like really great home cooks. And they think that I'm the one in the family that can't cook. Like on Thanksgiving, I'm the one who provides all the wine, and I don't usually cook a dish. But I can cook. I can actually cook. Yeah.
And if it smells as good as it does here, they should be there as well. So we've got ginger, garlic, and we've got our green chili in there. And we're just what I'm doing is you know, this is not my recipe, right? This is Firdous', and I always encourage people to like dip into the recipe as many times as you need to. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Go in and have a look and see how am I doing. Now her timings are different. She's asked for long periods of time because she's using mutton. Ours is going to be much less. So we're also gonna add the salt, and this again is you add salt to taste, right? So I'm going to add a little bit of the salt.
Okay, just 1 second. I'll be right back. Just 1 second. Sorry, just 1 second. You can just keep talking.
Tuanni. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of heat here because it's starting to stew, and it's not that I want to brown the meat or get some color on it, but I just want to get it going. And
sorry, there was somebody on my door. And there's this buzzing noise. Okay, but sorry about that. All right.
Okay. Right. So I was just saying that I'm hiking up my heat just a little bit because I don't want the meat to sit there and just stew. I want to get some color, but I have no intention of browning the meat as such because in order to brown it, you would have had to dab it up with paper towels, and I didn't do that. And you know, the recipe calls for us to do this for about 10 minutes, but remember, we're going to expedite. We're going to do things quicker, and also we're using lamb. So the very next thing to do is we're going to coat the meat in some of the spices, right? That laundry list. And we're going to then add some water afterwards and then let that cook before we add the potatoes. So I'm going to be right back. Okay. Actually, in this recipe, as we discussed previously, Firdous wants us to add water and cook it for 30 minutes or 15 minutes in the case of lamb. But I am going to make a little bit of a chop and a change. See the adaptation. And I'm going to skip that step, right? And because I have also done it this way, and it does work out okay. I'm going to add the spices right now, so those people joining us can, you don't have to sit there and wait and wonder where can I add my spices. Spices is the fun part anyway. We're gonna add them now.
Did I add the tomato already? Did I miss that step?
No. Tomato. Okay. See, this is the other thing. The tomato is gonna go in right at the end. So this is, you know, this shows you can do curry in so many different ways. I would have added it at the beginning as well. Okay. So now we're going to do our spices. We are not staying true to form in the sense that, you know, adding the water, letting that cook for a while. We're going to do a 2-in-1 process. So what are my spices? I'm going to add first the ground cumin. Now I'm going to wait for you, Tuanni. So once you're done with your cumin, you just say aye, and then we'll move on to the next.
Okay, wait a second. So the first one we're going to do is the coriander, you said, or which one?
So we'll use the cumin, the coriander, so you can get them all.
Okay.
Cumin, the coriander, the chili flakes. Now you'll notice that Firdous uses 4 forms of heat actually, which I think gives a very layered flavoring, you know, in terms of the depth that this heat brings, because she's using fresh chili.
Well, you gave me a bag when I first got back and we met.
Yes,
you gave me a bag of those red chili flakes, and I absolutely love them. They would just add so much like this, like really good spice, different kind of spice than the fresh chilies. But I wish I don't have them. I couldn't find them today, but I wish I had them.
Yeah. So that's simply what's happening here. So we used the green chili earlier with the dried chili flakes. Then she uses 2 forms of heat. And again, remember when we mentioned adaptation? It's all got to do with, you need to adjust the cooking for your palate. If you're someone who likes a lot of heat, then this will be suitable. If you know you don't, just simply add less, you know? I don't think you should be beholden to a recipe in terms of not adjusting for your own palate. So we have chili powder, and we have, in this case, the leaf masala. So leaf masala is one, not with curry leaves actually, but the one that has bay leaf in it. Masala basically means a mix. That's what it means. And there are various kinds, as you know. And
wait, so we're adding the masala and the chili powder too right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So we did the chili flakes, the chili powder, the masala. Right? Tell me when you're at that stage.
Okay, I added the masala. I'm gonna add some chili powder. I'm trying to catch up here, y'all. Bear with me.
Yeah, no, good. So what I'm doing in the meantime is I'm allowing the meat to get a chance to sort of enrobe itself in these spices and let it roll around in all of them. So I'm just gently tossing the meat around here, getting it covered.
What I do like about this curry, like when you look at it in the dish, it's so colorful with like all the spices and stuff. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm mixing. Oh, it smells like curry. I made curry. It smells like
so good. So there's a last one for us to add. That's the turmeric. Do you have your turmeric, Tuanni?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, let's put that in.
Okay.
And let's not discuss the rise of moon milk. I refuse.
Wait.
Okay, so I'm going to just try not to burn myself. Obviously, I don't have asbestos fingers. I'm just going to bring this up, and I don't know if this helps. Can you see? Can you see into my pot, Tuanni?
Oh my God, it smells so good. I wish I was there right now. I'm just hoping that mine comes out as good. Yeah. It's smelling really, really good. I can't wait to make this for my family when I go home. Sunday dinner, it's on and popping, y'all. Okay, come over. Who's coming over? Chip, Dwayne, Bridget. We're gonna have a good Sunday dinner. Sabra, Nalinya, y'all coming over. Okay, I'm sorry. I just get carried away. Super excited.
Right. It makes sense that you're excited. It smells delicious. So we're gonna fast forward the next part, right?
Okay.
So the next part is to add some water. Add about a cup.
Okay.
I'm going to wait for you once you have your water. We're going to add the water and we're going to add the potatoes now.
You know, I think I should have used a bigger pot. I don't know if I put too much lamb in here, but okay, let me see. So let me add my water.
So I'm going ahead and I've got the water and potatoes. My potatoes are in water already, so I don't want to add too much of that water across. I'm just be careful.
So I added the water, and so now I need to add the potatoes.
Yes. And now you've got to judge for yourself. Do you think, because we've skipped a step essentially, right? Do you think that your curry will need a little bit more water so that the potatoes can cook? Probably. The answer is probably yes.
I need a little bit more water because I can't imagine that we're just going to add a little bit more, but I don't want that to ruin the flavors. That's the only thing I'm worried about.
Yeah. So I'm going to add just a little bit of water that I've got here from the potatoes. And now.
So I have a question. Let's say some people, I know I met somebody the other day and she was like, she never eats potatoes. And I was like, what? She said she never eats potatoes because of her diet.
What?
Like she doesn't want to gain weight or whatever.
Was that the point at which you said I can't compute?
That was like, I was like, me and you probably would never be best friends. But is there something that people can add instead of potatoes?
Look, I'm not going to say add tofu or soya chunks or something like that, but you don't have to add the potatoes. You could add peas because oftentimes you could make this curry with peas or different kinds of beans. Just beware of the cooking time. The potatoes also, okay, potatoes are delicious, and you and I are not going to go into campaigning for them because we assume most people are on that.
I put the potatoes in mine. Trust me. I eat pork. I eat
potatoes for life.
Yes.
Can you see the placard? Potatoes for life.
Yes.
But look, potatoes also serve another function, and they serve the function of stretching the meal out. Right? So we grew up in homes where, it's only when I went to university that I realized that people don't eat in the same way. But, we had what people refer to as the double carb. So of course you would eat your curry if it was meat, not always meat, with potato, and then with rice or roti. There was never conversation about that being, that being too much of calories or too much of carbs.
Because you needed nutrients, you needed substance, and I think that's the whole point about food. It's like people eat differently, and food means different things. Like for me and my family, food means like friends, it means family, it means like good times. You know what I mean? And then there's some families, and we eat together. Like our best times are when we sit at a table and we're sharing a meal and we're having random conversations. And I feel sorry for families who the food is made and they all go into their separate spaces. Like somebody sitting in front of the TV, somebody sitting here. Like that would never happen in my family home. Like we have dinner, you're sitting at the table, or you just not gonna eat.
And you have to eat together. I mean, there's no, take your teenage moodiness and keep it in your room and come out for dinner.
And like whatever happens, like even if you're in a teenage mood, you're still gonna come to the table. If you don't eat, you sit there until dinner is over. Yeah. So
this curry is going to work without the potatoes, and you'll find what's interesting is you're not going to find potatoes in a lot of the curries or whatever the particular names of the dishes in India. Not in all parts of the country. Certainly in some parts. And the same, I think, in this country really depends, when we look at people of Indian origin, really depends perhaps where their roots came from, where their roots lie, should I say. But also it's got to do with how they adapted things here. So I think potato has been this great filler as well. It really helps to stretch a meal, but you could leave them out as well. So what I'm going to do now.
Wait a second, one question. We still have these grated tomatoes. We still didn't add the grated tomatoes?
Yes, so we're going to do this now. So we were chatting and protesting in favor of our potatoes, and I didn't tell you that I put the lid on.
Oh,
Potatoes.
let me go back on this lid because I don't have a lid that's big enough for this. So this plate will work.
Okay, but before you put your lid on, let's slide those tomatoes in. Remember, we're doing things in a sort of both abbreviated.
You know, I'm concerned about these grated tomatoes because it's my first time grating a tomato.
Let me see. No, I'm not. In fact, we often use grated, when we have fresh, we often use grated tomatoes. So
I use fresh tomatoes all the time, but I never grate them. But I will grate them from now on because I do like the consistency of them. Like this is the perfect way to make sauce, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you just need a ton of them. But yeah. So we're going to add them in now.
Okay.
Oops, so you can see from my side, I don't know if you can hear, but there's quite a bubble going on.
Yeah,
rolling
I have
bubble.
the bubble too. Yes. Okay.
Okay. And it depends on the potatoes you're using and the size and the vessel that you're cooking in them and if they have sufficient liquid around them. But generally, we're looking at a period of 15 to 20 minutes. You never know though. Sometimes you're unlucky and you end up with those potatoes that just simply don't want to cook.
Okay. Cover mine.
So how's it looking on your side?
I hear the bubbles. So should I let it continue to bubble or should I turn it down a little bit or what?
No, so you would turn it down, and I would say with this, every 5 minutes, you just go in, have a stir, and let this cook. And I really believe that you can't, lamb, yeah, sure, lamb cooks much faster than mutton. But if you let the thing cook a little longer, it's not to your detriment, actually, because the gravy, the sauce starts to thicken, and the meat really relaxes and tenderizes. And I love that. The potatoes also add that to the gravy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the spirit of television, even though this is not a television setup, fast forward and show you what the end result looks like. If you can just hold on a second.
Okay, yes, let's see this. I'm excited because I'm going to wait 20 minutes and let mine just cook and simmer. I'm super excited about that. Yeah, this has been really cool.
Okay, so I realized that my plate is so hot that I need a cloth. So I'm just going to come back,
and get one.
Okay.
And here we go. So the very last step
would be that you add your fresh coriander on the top. So I don't know if you can see, but this is the end result. It's thickened quite a bit.
You put it over rice. You put it over rice too?
I did. I've got basmati rice. Yeah, that's what I put it under. But you can eat it with roti, and so you can see, right? Bring it. Close. Right. So it's quite thick, and this is what I'm going to serve it with. Again, it's perfect to go as is. Don't need to serve it with anything really, but we have some pickles, and remember this is achar, which is quite different from your dill pickle, your bread and butter pickles, which are sweet and sour. These are quite spicy. So this is a baby aubergine. That's what we have. And then
pickles, can I make them myself? Because I have some pickles. Okay, we'll talk about it in a minute. But I have some pickles. Can I cut them up and add some spices or something?
You could just you know what? You could also eat them on the side. People eat various condiments on the side of a curry. Okay. So why not? And if you find that it's too spicy, not for you, but in general, you can also add a little dollop of thick yogurt or yogurt with a bit of mint in it, fresh mint. And I've got this, Firdous calls it a kachumba salad, which is chopped up tomato. I had just the baby tomato. So it's chopped up baby tomatoes, in this case, cucumber, red onion, a bit of chili, just some plain vinegar, nothing fancy, salt. That's it.
That sounds. I can't wait till I could just come over for dinner at your house.
Yeah.
Literally.
We've been speaking about this for such a long time. So from my side, yours is going to take probably, I would say, a maximum now of 20 minutes to cook. You just kind of tend your pot there, and you're going to have dinner, I assume, in 20 minutes.
I'm super excited. So, I've been trying to make curry. Thought I was making burger curry a couple times. I tried to follow the recipes in the book, but there was just something missing. And I feel like it's my curry is actually going to come out delicious. So I can't wait. I'm super excited. I'm waiting for this 20 minutes. But in the
It's
meantime,
so
I'm just
cool.
going to make some rice and some sides.
Great. And then the last thing for you to do, Tuanni, if you have fresh coriander, put it on, but then adjust your seasoning. So if you want to go in now and have a taste to see like what the, what the liquid is like, does it need a little more salt? Because then the potato is going to start absorbing from there.
Oh, and that's my problem. I'm not a really big salter. Like, I don't like to salt my food. I like the
Uh-huh.
flavors. But my boyfriend, he likes salt a lot. So I might have to
Put a meet in the
more
middle
salt.
somewhere there.
Yeah. Sorry, my little ghetto pan top. I think I need to turn it down a little bit though. Oh, it's looking so good. Oh my goodness.
And those tomatoes are disintegrating and melting into the gravy.
Yes, it's actually looking and smelling delicious. All right, but let me just taste it a little bit and turn it down. Okay, so super hot. This looks like that's gonna be super hot. I have to put it on some wood. It's delicious, but still, it doesn't taste like the curry that I get like at the Indian places. It feels like there's just something missing. Like, what is it?
Well, there are a couple of things that are happening now. Remember that it's still cooking. That's first of all, it needs to thicken, and the flavors need some time to develop. So if you have, the longer you wait, the better this curry is going to taste, and it does need to all come together. So if you've prepared the curry a couple of hours in advance, like I did with this one, you could see that the gravy thickened up quite a bit, and the meat had a chance to really, really marry well with all of those spices. So what am I saying? Chances are, if you eat this tomorrow, it's going to come together, and you tell me it doesn't taste like a proper curry.
No, and it tastes good. It tastes good. It just doesn't taste like the proper curry. The flavor is good, so I'm super excited about it. I can't wait. It's not going to last until tomorrow. I can tell you that much right now. I'm just going to add a little more salt to it, and then I added a little bit more garlic. But the other spices, the spice is definitely there. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. I'll let you know tomorrow how it turned out.
Thank you. This was so fun to do. Thank you so much, Tuanni, for arranging it.
Okay, so one more thing before we go. So just in case you guys missed it, I am talking to Ishay Govender. Can you say your name one more time for me? Just the proper way to say it.
No, you said it perfectly. Ishay Govender.
Oh, perfect. She is author of this wonderful book. It's a South African cookbook. It's called Curry. And it just talks about all the stories and recipes from people in South Africa, in different parts of South Africa, from the townships to the cities, and from Durban to Cape Town, Johannesburg, cities that I've never heard of before. And I'm super excited. It's a good read, even if you don't cook. Like, if you just look at it and you read the stories of the people, and you can learn about family and culture, and it's a really good book. And I think it's on Amazon. Is it on Amazon?
It was for a while, but if with international sales, you can get it via exclusive books. It was for a while, then it was off. So you can go to exclusivebooks.co.za and you could order them. It's internationally, but in South Africa, it's available on Takealot and Loot and at all the bookstores.
Yeah, so if you're in South Africa, you can go to almost any bookstore. If you're in America, or if you're in Europe, in Paris, or France, or whatever, you can go to exclusivebooks.co.za.
Yes.
Yes. And just go follow her on Instagram, find her on Facebook, stalk her, because I'm telling you, like, she's an amazing food source, and we all know that food fuels the soul. So thank you so much, Ishay. That was so fun.
Thank you so much, Tuanni. I'm looking forward to our in-person session cooking, but I would just like to say, if anyone's still watching, if they could also come and join us at SAPOC at the table. Check us out on Instagram. That's South African People of Color at the Table. Check our website as well. It's just a network that we have for people of color in the food and beverage industry in South Africa and Africa as a whole. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ishay. I'm super excited.
Thank you.
I will
Yes.
check you tomorrow, let you know how this is. Yes,
Okay,
thank you so
enjoy.
much.
Have a wonderful meal. Bon appetit. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.